Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, where we turn the pages of cinema's golden memories and listen to the story of life behind the stage lights. In 1964, a snap of the fingers and a wrinkle of the nose changed the world of television. The series Bewitched was released and created a global fever, with the story of a beautiful witch named Samantha trying to live a normal life with her mortal husband Darren Stevens. The work was not only a resounding commercial success, but also became an unforgettable part of the memories of an entire generation. But behind those classic characters are actors with very unique fates. More than half a century has passed. Time has carved different traces on their lives. Some continue to shine brightly. Some choose a quiet path, and there are also those who had to stop their journey in tragedy. Let's look back at the ups and downs of the cast that made up the soul of Bewitched. Elizabeth Montgomery Chongvai Samantha Stevens. In Bewitched, Samantha Stevens is the heart and soul of the entire story. With her radiant smile and magical twinkle in her eyes, Samantha leaves an indelible impression. Elizabeth Montgomery, then 31, brilliantly portrayed the powerful and graceful woman torn between the magical world and earthly love. She turned a simple frown into one of the most iconic on-screen gestures. After the resounding success of Bewitched, Elizabeth Montgomery's career took a new turn, but in a direction few expected. Born in 1933 into a family with a tradition of performing arts, with her father being the movie star Robert Montgomery, Elizabeth seemed destined for fame. However, she did not want to be forever framed in the image of a sweet witch. She actively sought out more complex, thorny roles in a series of critically acclaimed television series, notably A Case of Rape, 1974. One of the first works of American television to openly address the issue of sexual assault, in The Legend of Lizzie Borden, 1975, where she transformed into a suspected murderer. These roles showed the depth and courage of an artist who was not afraid of challenges. In her personal life, she went through 4 marriages, finding balance and happiness with her last husband, actor Robert Foxworth. She was also a quiet social activist, supporting gay rights and AIDS patients long before these issues were widely considered by society. The most thought-provoking thing is the connection between the role and her life. It seems that the role of Samantha Stevens has strangely applied to her life. While on the film, the character is a person who longs for a normal life and uses magic to solve problems in real life. Elizabeth Montgomery uses her own talent and reputation to fight for very real issues. She tries to escape the shadow of a classic role to assert herself as a multi-talented artist and a responsible person to society. However, that promising journey had to come to an abrupt end. On May 18, 1995, Elizabeth Montgomery passed away at the age of 62 due to colorectal cancer. Her departure left a huge void in the hearts of fans all over the world. Her legacy was not only the immortal role of Samantha, but also the life story of a strong, talented, and always ahead of her time woman. Agnes Moorehead Chongvai Endora. If Samantha is the heart of the show, then Endora, played by veteran actress Agnes Moorehead, is the mischief and power. At 64, when the show begins, she is already a living legend, with her piercing eyes, authoritative voice, and gorgeous outfits. Endora is a colorful witch mother-in-law who despises her mortal son-in-law and creates countless funny situations. Agnes Moorehead's performance at that time, with her vast experience, turned Endora into one of the most beloved supporting characters in television history. Before she became Endora, Agnes Moorehead had a career that many would envy. Born in 1900, she was one of the founding members of Orson Welles' Mercury Theater. It was Welles who introduced her to Hollywood with her debut role in the blockbuster Citizen Kane, 1941. Her career spanned over 100 roles on screen and stage, and she was nominated for 4 Oscars, a testament to her undeniable talent. She could play any role from a dour aunt in The Magnificent Ambersons, 1942, to a scheming countess, She was also a major radio star where her voice mesmerized millions of listeners when she accepted. To participate in Bewitched, she had a special clause in the contract requiring her to only appear in 8 out of 12 episodes to have time to participate in other projects, showing her position and unwavering passion for art. What is interesting is the contrast between the role and the real life. On screen, Endora is a flamboyant character who constantly interferes in her daughter's life. In real life, Agnes Moorehead was a reserved, highly educated woman with a master's degree and a deep religious devotion due to the influence of her pastor father. She never really appreciated the witch theme of the film and was quite surprised by its huge success. She saw it as a job. An interesting role, but not her greatest legacy. For her real legacy lies in her tragic roles on Broadway and in classic films. But that extraordinary artistic journey had to come to an end. On April 30th, 1974, just 2 years after the end of Bewitched, Agnes Moorehead died at the age of 73 from uterine cancer. Her passing closed a glorious chapter in Hollywood's golden age. Her legacy is a monumental career, an example of professionalism, and a reminder that even after her most famous role, she remained one of the greatest dramatic actresses of her generation. Dick York Chung-Vi Darren Stevens. The first to play Darren Stevens, the mortal husband plagued by magic, was Dick York. With his lanky frame and great physical comedy, he perfectly portrayed a man in a constant state of tension and panic in the face of supernatural situations. At 36 when he started, the role Dick York made Darren's frustration and unconditional love for Samantha an integral part of the first 5 seasons. Dick York's career began in radio as a teenager, then moved to Broadway and then to Hollywood. He was a talented and hard-working actor, but a terrible accident on the set of They Came to Cordura. 1959 changed his life forever. During a scene, he suffered a serious back injury, an injury that caused chronic pain that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Despite the pain, he devoted himself to the role of Darren, often suffering severe spasms on set. The crew had to build special props for him to stand or sit on during scenes. The pain forced him to take painkillers, and gradually he became dependent on them. The connection between the role and Dick York's life is perhaps the most tragic and obvious. While Darren Stevens' character constantly suffered from headaches and the stress of the wizarding world, Dick York himself was struggling with constant physical pain. Darren's confusion and fatigue on screen mirrored the actor's struggles behind the scenes. Eventually, he couldn't take it anymore. During a shoot, he collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. That was the last time he appeared on the set of Bewitched. However, that painful journey had to stop in silence. On February 20th, 1992, Dick York passed away at the age of 63 due to emphysema, the result of many years of smoking. He lived in seclusion. In his later years, bedridden due to a spinal injury, but even in that situation, he did not stop trying. From his hospital bed, he founded Acting for Life, a private foundation to raise money for the homeless. His departure left a deep sorrow. His legacy is not only the original Darren Stevens, but also the story of an artist who fought pain to the end and spent his last breath helping others. Dick Sargent Chung-Vi Darren Stevens. When Dick York had to leave, Dick Sargent had a difficult task to become the second Darren Stevens. Starting in season 6 at age 39, Sargent brought a calmer, less panicky Darren, but still retained his humor and love for Samantha, while changing a main character. Midway through the season was always a challenge. He played the role well and stuck with the show until the end. Before Bewitched, Dick Sargent was a familiar actor on television and in movies. With a handsome, elegant appearance, he often played businessmen or good guys in romantic comedies. After Bewitched ended, he continued his acting career with guest roles on various television shows. However, the biggest turning point in his life was not his acting career. For many years, he lived a quiet life, hiding a private secret. The contrast between Dick Sargent's role and his life is a profound reflection of the society of the time on screen. He was Darren Stevens, the archetype of the traditional American family man in a perfect suburb. But in real life, Dick Sargent was gay, It was not until his final years, when he was facing a terminal illness, that he decided to come out. Together with his close friend and on-screen mother-in-law, Elizabeth Montgomery, he became an active activist for gay rights. He said he wanted to be a late role model, using his voice to fight for equality. However, that courageous journey did not last long. On July 8, 1994, Dick Sargent passed away at the age of 64 from prostate cancer. His passing just a year before Elizabeth Montgomery added a sad note to the story of Bewitched. His legacy is not only a different Darren Stevens, but also a story of courage, of daring to be true to oneself and inspiring many to dare to step out of the darkness. David White as Larry Tate. As Larry Tate, Darren's opportunistic and greedy boss at the McMahon-Tate advertising agency, David White creates a character that is both odious and funny. At 48, when the film begins, he is already a seasoned stage and television actor. Larry Tate is a classic character, always trying to take credit for Darren's work, but also a friend in his own way. David White's performance brings wit and depth to a character that could have easily become one-dimensional. Born in 1916, David White was a World War II Marine veteran. After the war, he returned to Broadway before becoming a familiar face on television. He had a knack for playing villains, narcissists, and colorful politicians. Bewitched was the height of his fame, but he never left the stage, where he continued to devote himself to the arts. His personal life was relatively private, but there were quiet tragedies. His wife died shortly after giving birth to their son Jonathan, leaving him to raise the children alone. The connection between David White's role and his life is a tragic contrast on screen. Larry Tate is a man who worries about profits and lucrative contracts. In real life, David White faced an irreparable pain. The greatest tragedy struck his life in December 1988, when his son Jonathan, then 33, was among the victims of the terrorist bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland. The loss of his son devastated him, making him bitter and reclusive for a time. And so that heartbreaking journey had to end. On November 27, 1990, just days before the second anniversary of his son's death, David White died at the age of 74 of a massive heart attack. His passing brought to an end a talented actor who brought laughter to audiences but endured immense pain in real life. His legacy is a reminder that behind every role, no matter how humorous, there is a person with a very personal story. George Tobias as Abner Kravitz. Whenever something strange happens at the Stevens house, the first person to notice is neighbor Gladys Kravitz, and the one who always has to endure her panic is her husband Abner, played by George Tobias. At 63, when he started his role, George Tobias was already a veteran. Abner Kravitz is the embodiment of calmness to the point of indifference. He just wants to read the newspaper and ignore his wife's screams about freaking things on the other side of the fence. His catchphrase, "Gladys, come inside," has become a classic part of the film, a voice of skepticism and a desire for a quiet life. George Tobias' career began long before the suburban setting of Bewitched. Born in 1901 in New York, he honed his acting skills on stage before being discovered by Warner Brothers. He became a regular supporting actor in Hollywood's golden age, often playing the good-natured, dependable sidekick, especially in films with the legendary James Cagney. He appeared in everything from crime dramas to comedies to musicals. Bewitched provided him with a steady role and was best remembered for it in his later years. He even reprised his role as Abner in the short-lived spin-off series Tabitha in 1977. The contrast between the role and the real life is interesting. On screen, Abner Kravitz craves quiet and order, a man who just wants to stay in his own little world. In real life, George Tobias has a vibrant life in the heart of Hollywood, working tirelessly alongside the biggest stars. Perhaps the role of a man who just wants to be left alone is a bienvenue rest after decades of living in the hustle and bustle of the entertainment industry. After retiring in 1977, his journey gradually came to an end. On February 27, 1980, George Tobias passed away at the age of 78 after a long battle with bladder cancer. His passing brought to an end a hard-working actor who had appeared in hundreds of productions. His legacy is as one half of the most famous husband and wife couple in television history, a role in which his weary sighs brought hearty laughter to the audience. Erin Murphy Chongvai Tabitha Stevens, Little Witch Tabitha Stevens, daughter of Samantha and Darren, captured the hearts of audiences from the moment she appeared. The role was played by twins, Erin and Diane Murphy. But as the two sisters grew older and no longer looked alike, Erin became the sole person to play Tabitha. Starting the role at just 2 years old, Erin Murphy grew up with the show with her mischievousness and loveliness. Tabitha became an important part of the Stevens family and the series. After Bewitched ended in 1972, Erin, then 8 years old, made a decision unlike many child stars. Instead of pursuing an acting career, she chose a normal life. She joined the cheerleading squad in high school, was elected prom queen, and graduated like many of her peers. After that, Erin tried her hand at many different roles: swimsuit model, casting agent, makeup artist, acting teacher, and even a motivational speaker. She also worked as a stunt double for actress Virginia Madsen. Her life was a dynamic and diverse journey of self-discovery. She married and had 6 children. One of her sons is autistic, which inspired her to become an active activist for autism-related charities. The contrast between Erin Murphy's role and her life is admirable. On screen, Tabitha is a child living in an extraordinary magical world. In real life, Erin Murphy strives to have as normal a life as possible behind the spotlight. She does not let her childhood fame define her entire future. Instead, she actively writes her own story, becoming a successful businesswoman, a devoted mother, and a useful voice for the community. Today, at 61, Erin Murphy continues to pursue a variety of business and social ventures. She co-owns a beverage company and regularly attends Bewitched fan events, sharing fond memories of her time away from the spotlight. Her journey is proof that it is possible to live a fulfilling and successful life after leaving the spotlight at a young age and to continue to inspire the next generation. Bernard Fox as Dr. Bombay. In the wizarding world of Bewitched, when medical intervention is needed, the person summoned is none other than Dr. Bombay, played by Bernard Fox. He is a special guest character who always appears bizarrely after a summoning spell. Dr. Bombay is a quack witch with ridiculous costumes, bad jokes, and even worse, cures. With explosive comedic energy, each of his appearances is an unforgettable highlight. Bernard Fox, born in 1927 in Wales, was a versatile actor with a colorful life. He served in the Royal Navy during World War II, and it was those experiences that inspired him to create the character of Dr. Bombay based on a naval officer he knew. Before coming to Hollywood, he was a stage actor in England. He became famous for playing somewhat awkward English gentlemen. Surprisingly, during the same time he was filming Bewitched, he also played another classic role, the goofy Colonel Crittenden in the series Hogan's Heroes. His career did not stop there. He later appeared in 2 blockbuster films, Titanic 1997, as Colonel Archibald Gracie IV, and The Mummy, 1999 as pilot Winston Havelock. The connection between the role and the life is a testament to acting talent. Both Dr. Bombay and Colonel Crittenden were men of rank but utterly incompetent and boastful. In real life, Bernard Fox was a consummate professional, a veteran, a theater historian, and a respected actor who worked tirelessly for over 6 decades. He was a master at playing fools, but he himself was the complete opposite. His long and impressive run came to an end on December 14, 2016, when Bernard Fox passed away at the age of 89 due to heart failure. He was one of the last major recurring cast members of Bewitched to pass away. He left behind not one but 2 of the most memorable supporting characters in sitcom history, a testament to his unique comedic talent. Marion Lorne Chongvai Di Clara. Before Esmeralda came along, the most lovable magical troublemaker was Aunt Clara, played by Marion Lorne. She was in her 80s when she took on the role. Aunt Clara is an elderly, forgetful witch whose magical powers are waning. Her spells rarely go as planned, creating hilarious situations. She has a particularly strange collection of doorknobs, a small detail that has become legendary. Marion, Lorne's performance has made Aunt Clara a beloved character, the aunt everyone wants in their family. Marion Lorne's life was an epic musical. Born in 1883, she had a stage career spanning more than 5 decades before becoming a television star. She began acting on Broadway in 1905. She settled in England with her husband, playwright Walter C. Hackett, and together they founded the Whitehall Theatre. After her husband's death in 1944, she returned to the United States and continued her career. It was in her twilight years that she made her film debut, but it was a memorable role in Alfred Hitchcock's classic Strangers on a Train, 1951. As the suffocating mother of a murderer, Bewitched was the belated pinnacle of her fame, bringing her face and talent into millions of homes around the world. The connection between character and life is remarkable. Aunt Clara is forgetful and clumsy, a stark contrast to Marion Lorne, a sharp professional actress who once ran an entire theater. Her ability to portray awkwardness so skillfully is not a reflection of her real self, but the result of decades of acting experience. Aunt Clara's endearing confusion is brought to life by an artist from another era, giving the role a rare authenticity. However, her glorious journey was tragically cut short just as she was at the peak. On May 9, 1968, while Bewitched was still airing, Marion Lorne died at the age of 84 of a heart attack. Just 10 days later at the Emmy Awards, she was posthumously awarded the award for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series. Elizabeth Montgomery, who played her niece on the show, accepted the award on her behalf in a moving speech. Her passing left an unfillable void in the show and in the hearts of audiences. Her legacy is that of an immortal Aunt Clara, a role that marked the final chapter of a very long life dedicated to the arts. Alice Ghostly as Esmeralda. When Marion Lorne, who played beloved Aunt Clara, died, a huge void appeared in the Stevens family, and then came Esmeralda, played by Alice Ghostly, bringing a breath of fresh air but no less chaotic. At 46, Alice Ghostly played Esmeralda, a kind but extremely shy and clumsy maid witch. When she was nervous, her magic became uncontrollable, and worse, she slowly disappeared. Alice Ghostly's performance created a character that was both pitiful and lovable. A fragile soul who always tried to do the right thing but always caused trouble. But behind the shy, nervous woman on screen was a powerful and talented stage performer, Alice Ghostly. Born in 1923, was a bright star on Broadway long before she became a familiar face on television. She won the prestigious Tony Award for Best Supporting Actress in 1965, a recognition of her dramatic talent. She began her career in the play New Faces of 1952 with Paul Lynde, and the two were often referred to as male and female versions of each other because of their unique comedic styles. Not limited to the stage, she also participated in classic films such as To Kill a Mockingbird 1962 and, later, the hit musical Grease 1878. After Bewitched, she continued to leave a deep impression on a new generation of audiences with her role as Bernice Clifton, the eccentric friend in the famous series Designing Women. Her personal life was quite peaceful with her husband, actor Felice Orlandi, in a marriage that lasted 50 years. The most thought-provoking thing is the complete contrast between the role and life. While Esmeralda is a person who is always self-conscious and obscure in real life, Alice Ghostly is a great artist, a woman honored with the highest award of American theater. She is a testament to the fact that a great actress can completely hide her strength and confidence to transform into a weak character in an unexpectedly convincing way. However, her tireless dedication to art was slowed down by strokes. On September 21, 2007, Alice Ghostly passed away at the age of 84 due to colon cancer and a series of strokes. Her passing left behind a mourning for those who loved the charming and somewhat quirky laughter she brought. Legacy is not only Esmeralda or Bernice, but also the image of a talented actress who could shine brightly on stage but also did not hesitate to become obscure on screen for the role.